What's up, guys? Welcome to the Bomb Squad. I'm your host, Andrew Hara, with my other host, William Murdoch and Joshua Epp. Josh, why don't you give them your exact address so we
Please.
can so we can continue.
The greater
We
Pacific Northwest area.
we talk
Oh, cool.
about underrated and overly hated movies, and today's movie is a little bit of the latter, or the former, no latter. We are talking about 2001's Driven, but before we get into it, let's check out this commercial. Thank you so much for joining us on the Bomb Squad. Please give a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to support our channel, other than that, the best way to do it right now is to watch our movies. We have the boxing documentary Humble Spirits. We have the Mexploitation thriller Borderland about missing cartel money. Those movies are both on Tubi. Also on Tubi and Screambox, you can watch the zombie drama, The Last Ones, and of course, The Empty Space, a cosmic horror about grief and loneliness. We hope you enjoy those movies. Tell us what you think if you do watch them. And of course, you can always follow my other YouTube page, which is my shorts page, to see some short films, or just join us here. Thank you so much again, and please keep supporting the channel. And we're back. Okay, guys, as you heard. So F1 is coming out this week. Everyone's most anticipated racing movie of the decade. I think it's the only one as well. F1 starring Brad Pitt. And because it's coming out, we wanted to jump on that algorithm. You know, all those kids are searching F1 right now and sports and other related films. So we wanted to talk about
all
Driven.
the Americans who are clamoring at the bits for F1 content.
Yeah. The ones who are like, hey, I like F, and just like in Driven, this movie isn't just like most Americans. This movie's not about F1, but I don't know the difference. So we're talking about 2001's Driven, directed by Remy Harlin, written by Stallone, Sylvester Stallone, championed this movie. He also stars, kind of, along with Kip Pardue, who
remember the Titans, baby.
Yeah, that's right. He did not remember how to act, but we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Also starring Till Schweiger, who everyone remembers as everyone's favorite character from Inglourious Basterds. Starring also Burt now William's favorite character.
Well, no, he was like almost like a 90s it guy almost, but he wasn't like,
you
know what I mean? Like as traditionally handsome as like Freddie Prinze or something. He
showed up in a lot. Yeah, I felt like he was held back by his accent. Also starring Burt Reynolds. This is kind of right after Boogie Nights, which is funny that he got his career back, and then much like Mickey Rourke, they both got their career back, and then they were like, oh, let's star in a Stallone movie.
Wait, hold on. The guy I was just saying was almost a 90s it guy. I thought you were talking about Kip Pardue's brother's character.
Oh, no.
Never mind. Scratch what I said.
Yeah. Till Schweiger, he's the guy from Inglourious Basterds who's
the German one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one German in that movie.
The one good German, we should say.
Right.
And then starring Estella Warren and, of course, the always great Christian de la Fuerza, who stars as our favorite character, Memo. You know Memo. You know everyone's favorite character, Memo. Before we get into this, William, why don't you take us down? Why don't you give us a drive?
Okay, I'll give you guys a drive. We have up-and-coming racer Kip Pardue's character, who is being strategically...
Name unknown.
Name unknown. Maybe his name was Ben.
Jimmy.
I think his name is Jimmy.
Yeah. So he's like, Burt Reynolds is like the owner of this racing team, and he wants Kip Pardue to be number one, and he wants the guy from Inglourious Basterds to be number two as like a support team racer.
Right.
But fame is too much for Kip Pardue. Kind of plays into it. Then there's like a love triangle between some people. Anyways, Stallone is brought in as a fixer of types for this racing team. Although I'm a little still unclear as to like what his role actually ever was on the team.
Right.
And then they race, kind of guidance. And then Stallone kind of tells Kip Pardue to race because you love racing, not race to win. And they travel from Toronto to Chicago, back to Toronto. And then eventually the movie is over.
Right.
Hey, they go to Japan
and Japan.
I want to say Germany at one point.
They might have,
Okay, guys, these are very short descriptive. You don't have to cover every single scene. I don't know why you guys think you do.
This is
But you guys are like, and
definitely.
then at the end, let's get into
Why don't you
spoilers.
ever have to do it, Andrew? We never have to make you come up off the cuff with.
I have to
with the
do
movie
everything
synopsis.
before
That is
it.
true. He does do all the production,
But
and
it's the same stuff every time. I
and
don't
he
know.
cares
Lots
about
change.
this.
Yeah, once you edit it one time, I'll do it on my side.
Okay.
But no, this is definitely a movie
But in
where.
the meantime, you have to take our descriptions for what
That's
they
true.
are, which is
That is
fried
true.
gold. Fried gold.
I am complaining from outside of the club on that one. I will say,
yeah.
Just getting my sandwich, bro.
the first thing is this movie starts with a song that's at the very beginning of season 2 of Scrubs that they sing, and they play it a lot. And I could not get Scrubs out of my mind, so that starts it off. We were off to a good start at the beginning of this stuff.
Yeah,
and
was
then
actually gonna comment.
The music
on
in this movie is
soundtrack.
crazy.
It is the most nu metal heavy soundtrack. Which,
yeah.
As a fan of neither racing nor nu metal, this movie was a real.
And
I
do want to
like royalty free like Entourage music.
Yeah, it was like
yeah.
It's kind of funny because you look at, like, speaking of F1, like you look at the trailers at least, and they're kind of looking at like the way that Warrior kind of looked at MMA, or like how Remember the Titans looked at football, where it's like, no guys, this is like the classy, like this is actually like our modern gladiator sports. So we're gonna treat it with like that prestige. Driven does not do that. Driven is like, hey, you like NASCAR? Well, guess what? Every single frame of this movie is gonna remind you how you like NASCAR. Like, even whenever they travel to a city, there's like big letters, and it's like neon colors inside the letters, and they're transparent. And there's another image. It's like the most Ed Hardy thing. And then there's like,
this
the
movie
whole
is
thing,
Ed Hardy. This is the most Ed Hardy movie ever.
The movie's like soundtracked by Limp Bizkit's like replacements or whatever, and so like every single song is like, you're gonna drive fast, you're gonna stop slow.
I think the most notable, and this is funny because this is one of those songs where at the time it wasn't used as a joke, but now it just the "Hey Man, nice shot." Where you're like, oh yeah, that song's such a like relic of the day. You know, the "Hey Man, nice shot."
Yeah, that song was never used as a joke. It was used in Demon Knight, the best movie ever made.
Well, Demon Knight did it right, but...
And so, okay, so to get into it, the movie starts, and...
immediately.
The credits are... No, the movie starts, we see, like, we're introduced to Kip and to that other guy in, like, in a bunch of newspapers. They're like, Kip is the new hot seat. This other guy is the old guy. And then they're playing it, and then Kip wins one, and the other guy gets jealous, and then we find out that Kip can't keep his composure. He keeps getting the yips, so he's losing, and then he kind of likes the other guy's girlfriend, but the other guy and the girl are in love. And then
very he's
they break up at the beginning.
She's like, you need to live your life. He's like, you're the distraction.
Okay, wait. But wait. I have not gotten to that point yet. We are not there. At this point, this is the first 5 minutes. This is the first 10-minute montage. It's like its own movie, and it because like the plot of I hate having to keep referring to F1, but the plot of F1, it's like there's new hotshot guy, and this old like a veteran guy, and they're like, which one's gonna win? At the very beginning, Kip is portrayed as both the new guy and also the old guy who has the yips and can't like hold it together.
Yeah.
And throughout the movie, he just interplaces between them. And then after they explain all that, then the movie starts, and then we get to him breaking up with his girlfriend in the first. We're like 30 minutes in.
Right, because the
first song that says like "not gonna race anymore" are the lyrics to the song playing during the breakup. It's perfect.
It also
subtitles are a must for this movie. Only for
really
because they're insane.
Like hypes you by being like there's like an opening crawl that's like $100 million. This many 900 million spectators. I'm like, there's no way there's 900 million spectators for not NASCAR.
I will say that like living in Austin when they built that F1 racetrack, whenever F1 was in town, like the coffee shop I worked at, like business was booming. Like
Yeah.
But is it like
they
10
love it. Not
Super
Americans. They're
Bowls
never
popular?
Americans.
Yeah, maybe Europe. I don't
Yeah.
I mean,
know.
kind of. It's a bunch of Europeans that like flood
Yeah.
Austin, like, and they're
Okay.
cool, but it's
I guess it's
crazy how
just
big fucking
parallel
deal that
worlds.
is.
I've never interacted
I
with
know.
it.
I would never know
I
this unless I had that exact experience.
Yeah, I feel like F1
It
is kind of
seems like
like
a nothing.
soccer or Eurovision, where
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like it's just not that popular in America, so Americans don't think it's popular, but
We're
it's like
just like, that sucks.
one of the most popular things ever. Yeah, because it's like even in this movie, you're like because they don't. There's no lead up to the first race. They just start showing you races and like people winning and losing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
really
again,
drops you
like
in. Yeah.
there was
They
one
don't tell you how
time
the teams work or anything.
or well yeah, and so like I was like there's a script that I want to make eventually, but it's like about a boxing movie, and in it there's a bunch of fights, but you realize pretty quickly like if you show a bunch of fights in a row that you lose all, like there's a reason that even in Rocky there's a montage between like round 3 and like round 9 because
Right.
you're just
You just can't
watching
handle
the
that much
same
action.
thing over and over. Yeah, and so if you do it too much, like this movie immediately gets rid of all the stakes by having Kip and the other guy win a bunch, and so
Yeah.
it's
Right.
I don't
like,
even know what
oh
the stakes
yeah,
really
like that's
were for
great.
this
Yeah,
movie. Yeah.
so
Yeah, you don't see his rise to fame. You see him being like, I'm already the most famous racer and I don't like it. And his brother's
Yeah.
like his
Yeah.
asshole agent who's like,
Yeah.
hey, you need
Yeah.
to buck up and have this horrible life. You
Right.
know?
You're making money for us, dog. Stop.
and
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
yeah.
Putting that in danger.
And so then, like, so this is all again in the first, like, not even the first act. It's like the first 10 minutes of the movie where all this is being explained.
Yeah.
And even then, like, the movie's cut like a music video. Like, because there's a scene, because then
Yeah.
they need help. So Burt Reynolds, which I didn't even realize Burt Reynolds was the manager of them. They don't establish that until he makes his first phone call. And so he calls
Yeah.
Stallone. And he's like, hey, I know you're retired, but I need your help. And Stallone's like, I already know that kid is doing bad. It's like, why would you already know that? Like, you won an Oscar for writing, Stallone.
Right.
You know how to do this. And so, like, he's like, okay, well, I know how to do. He's like, well, we really need you back. And he's like, I don't know. And then he hangs up the phone, and I was like, did he take the job or not? Like, what the hell?
Right. And what was he being hired to do? What is
And
his
then-
role?
And the whole movie feels like that, where every scene, like, you know, in screenwriting, they tell you, like, don't ever write out anyone walking in or walking out of a room, which you can. Don't listen to those haters. Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
But in this movie, it almost feels like every scene is cut before the actual relevant information. Like, it's all the opening, and then the
Yeah,
very
right.
like it's always like the opening scene or the opening part of the scene, and then like the little quip at the end, and you miss the
And they
meat
just
of
hang.
it because
they hang on people just like looking at nothing for like
Yeah.
30 seconds. And
I
you're like,
thought-
what are you doing, dude?
yeah, I thought that he had been hired to be his coach or his like pit crew guy.
Yeah, and then
granted, I don't
for a while
know.
you see him doing pit crew stuff, but then he's
Yeah.
racing, and I was like, maybe this
Yeah.
is just well known if you're a fan of this, like what everyone's job is, but they do not like cover it at all. You know?
Because-
Right. And also, like, what was because he's replacing Memo, who we don't
Yeah.
really know anything about. What was Memo doing wrong? That
Right.
place?
Right.
Like,
Well,
why
I-
was that even a drama?
I think it's not so much that Memo is doing a bad thing, because he mentions this when he talks to his ex-wife. Because then before they start racing, like, you find out that this movie, every
Gina Gershon,
character
yeah.
has like a book backstory about them.
Yeah.
So
The first cut of this movie was 4 hours long. Did you guys
Which
see that?
Yeah, I
makes-
saw the
yeah.
trivia
Yeah,
on that.
that's
It was
crazy.
Yeah.
it was
Makes
it was
a
a
lot of
220-page script, and which
Yeah.
is
So
funny.
you're right, Andrew. There are novels of backstory.
Because
Yeah.
that Brad Pitt movie's like 3 hours, and I was like, oh, I guess they weren't ready for a 3-hour race.
You need it,
back
yeah.
then, but now,
Right.
now they are.
We had it driven before we could
Well,
drive.
So he's in the back, and then Gina Gershon comes out, and Gina Gershon, I think she thinks she's in a live action Disney remake because she plays every single role or every single scene she's in as his ex-wife as the most like openly evil person in
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
Like
The
every line
evil
of
queen.
Hostile to everyone around. Yeah.
yeah, she's like, oh, I think you'll miss me when I still have your wedding ring. It's like, why are you talking like this?
Right.
And
She's like, I
I-
understand it's Brotherhood of Speedcraft, but it's like, you live with racers. You get the Brotherhood
Yeah,
of
she's.
Speedcraft.
Yeah.
I believe
you know?
she's dating Memo. Is she not?
No, she's
she's
married
Memo's
to Memo.
wife.
Oh, she married Memo, divorced Stallone. Yeah.
She divorced Stallone and she married Memo.
Who
And
loves
Memo
Stallone.
is cool with it. They're still
Yeah.
friends. And Gina Gershon, for some reason, has a problem with this. Like,
Like, she
she's
is not
mad.
over Sylvester. She
Yeah.
is not over him.
But she tells him, like, oh, Memo didn't even do anything wrong. They just fired him because they wanted you. How does that make you feel? And then, like, it cuts to
Yeah.
Memo and he, like, comes up and he's like, hey, guys, I hope you didn't say anything to me. And it's like, what?
She can be a little testy.
Yeah. And so
How did you just
then,
handle it, Stallone?
yeah, then they get into, like, there's the first scene where they're racing and Stallone gets into the car, and it's like when RoboCop, like if you ever noticed, RoboCop was always too big to actually fit in the police cars in this whole costume. So if you watch RoboCop, you never actually see him get in or out of the car. You just see him
Oh,
always
yeah.
in the car.
Right.
And there's one scene where Stallone tries to get into the race car, and he's so gigantic that it looks like those McDonald's toys where there's like a character sticking, or it looks
Yeah,
like Mario
the
Kart.
tiny little head.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
dude. There are too many
he's
tiny little
so
heads in this movie.
huge.
It's unreal. Yeah.
I think that's also like that's part of the reason I could never get it, because I could see like, oh, if you're like a football player or soccer player, you're like you're like peak physical condition, like
Sure.
you have all this
look
like
cool.
you're out there on the
Yeah.
in these it's like, oh no, you're crammed into the worst possible car and you're
Yeah.
just like
It looks
like
silly.
this, so like that
Yeah.
seems like a nightmare even for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone could enjoy this.
And so then they either
Put a
win
hood
or
over the head. I don't want to see the head. Just put it.
yeah, they
Give
either
me a
win or
windshield.
lose that race. I don't remember because there's so many races in this movie, and
Yeah.
none of them matter. Like there's like the only one that really matters is the last
Yeah.
one.
What
But even
And
then,
even then,
What I do like
Um,
about this though is because it's still like Jimmy is still really struggling to, he's like not having a good time, and
yeah.
he literally to
He hates the
relax goes to a new metal concert. So it's like
Yeah.
if you
Oh,
didn't like
yeah,
new metal
yeah.
enough, you're
Yeah.
gonna see a full new
Well,
metal
it's-
concert as well.
That's how racers-
Tucked into
it's
Yeah,
to
pull out
show
a
you
theme.
how cool Jimmy is. That's the thing.
right. That's
Yeah.
And
his,
so-
that's his cool thing.
While
So back to that scene that Andrew was talking about, where
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone gets in the car for the first time. Were you going to talk about the quarters?
yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So, from Sylvester Stallone's own words, he says that the way he tried to make the character in this movie was someone who was probably pretty good at racing, never the best, but did a pretty good job most of the time. And then the first time we ever see Sylvester Stallone hit the track, everyone's doing their little quips. They're like, oh, he's going to start humming. We know this guy from way back in the day. When he
Yeah.
hums, the universe stops for Sylvester Stallone. And then as he's driving, he's flipping quarters out onto the racetrack. And Kit Pardue's like, why is he flipping out the quarters? And the seasoned other guy's like, oh, you just got to wait and see
Yeah.
what he's going to do. And it's very impressive for Sly to drive through this course and hit the quarters with his tires, which he can see with his supernatural driven vision. So obviously he's a really good racer, and everyone
Right.
has stories about him, and he's like this spiritual guy on the
Yeah.
racetrack. But his point, his character from Sylvester Stallone's own mouth is that he's an okay driver
Right.
who is never good or never bad. But it's like, well, then what are these quarters?
That he's like,
Yeah.
Am I impressed or
he has
not?
this
I don't
perfect trick.
understand.
Yeah.
And it's also
Yeah.
this thing like when Burt Reynolds calls Stallone, he tells him like at the end of the conversation, he's like, I might be the slowest guy on the track, but I'm the fastest guy in the head or something like that. And then
Right.
the next scene, you see Sylvester Stallone pushing him on a wheelchair. It's almost established like as if we should know he was always
yeah,
a
Burt Reynolds?
paraplegic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
it's
don't
not a
say it.
reveal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Doesn't really
just like,
matter.
oh yeah, he's paraplegic. It's like, how would we know that movie? We don't
Right.
know anything
You
about
really,
anyone.
you really feel the hour that was cut, like of
Yeah.
this, or
Oh,
2
Yeah.
hours.
I
I
know,
guess.
you really do. You really
And
do.
like, and so then that night after the race, Stallone goes to like a bar and he meets like a reporter, and he's just like openly
What
like,
is she writing? What is she writing an article about? An expose on the dominance of men in sports.
yes,
At F1, hanging out with she's not talking to the women. She's talking to the guys who
just
own
the
it.
guys, yeah.
Yeah.
And not
I
only that,
know.
but
It's an expose
Stallone-
on men's dominance in sports.
Stallone is just like, because she's like, oh, hey, what are you, a big blockhead? And he's like, hey, why don't you think about me right? Like, you should learn to meet someone before you judge them, dumbass.
Right.
And it's like, why are you so hostile to everyone? Stallone? She was clearly being cheeky. She wants to like hook up with
Yeah.
you, and that's
Right.
like, other than Rocky, Stallone doesn't really get love interest, and you realize why, because he
Yeah.
has like the charisma of like a rock. Like he's
I
so
know.
uh,
He's
like
so
him,
brutish.
him
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
like trying to be cutesy is like, oh my god, she needs to get away from me. Like he's like, hey, you're, and then like the way that scene ends to make it show like he's still like, oh, he's being silly. He's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh.
you're a hothead dumbass. It's like, wait, that's not a cute thing to call. And then he
You
calls
got
her that
a
the
poo
rest
poo
of the
duty
movie.
mouth for a brain.
Yeah,
Stupid.
it's such a like,
I like the insights into his mind, because we've talked about a lot of Stallone movies. You
yeah.
always think about just like where he's like, oh yeah, character quirk is this guy cuts his pizza with scissors before he eats it. It's like no one would ever think of that, but you, Stallone,
Did
your mind is just completely insane.
Right.
Yeah. And so then we go to Japan. And how do I know we're in Japan? Because the
Tell
big
me.
letters tell us Japan. And then Estella Warren, who's now dating Kip, because now they're together. Which, like, there's a scene where he looks at her
He
to
kind
make
of
it seem like he
smiles at
likes
her,
her.
and then they're just
Yeah.
together.
And then
Yeah.
they're just
Mhm.
together.
She's at the new
they go
metal
talk
concert.
somewhere.
That's how he
But
knows she's
she's
Right.
cool.
Which is at a fancy hotel bar.
Yeah.
New
And
metal concert.
and so
Really
she's
weird
swimming in the
juxtaposition.
pool, and the pool is the
Oh
flag
God.
of Japan.
Oh yeah. I mean,
But
that opening shot was kind of cool, but it just was like the rest of this movie
But
is ridiculous. So you don't even earn it.
it's
You
so
don't even earn this shot.
you
ridiculous
you
that
also
like
know, because
Yeah.
the only time the music isn't new metal is in Japan when it's all techno.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
such
for
a
sure, for
like,
sure.
like of course this would be.
and and so she's swimming in the pool, and Jimmy's looking at her, and she's doing Olympic style synchronized swimming that
Right.
nobody
Yeah.
just learns, but she just did. And then Jimmy says, "I've never seen anything like that before. That's fantastic. How did you do that?"
Yes.
Those three lines, she does
Oh,
not
hi, Mark.
reply at all. He's just
Yeah.
talking at her, and then once he finally replies, because she goes, "How?" The last thing he says, "How did you do that?" And then she goes, "Oh, because I'm part frog, ribbit, ribbit."
God.
And that was
She says it 3 times. There's 3 rivets.
Stallone fought to keep that joke in the movie because he said it was his favorite joke. That's not a joke.
Oh
That's
my god,
just
his
something that-
mind. Another
God.
perfect
I wanted to
example.
die when I saw that scene.
But
Oh my God.
I
I
want to
felt so
say
bad for
like
everyone involved.
I want to say that that's like such a good idea of how the script is, where like he's like, "Oh, how'd you do that? Oh, I like that. Oh, what's going?" And it's like, you should have just picked one of those lines of dialogue, Stallone. Why does he say 3 of them in the same time over and over?
Right.
And then, so he's in love with his competition because he's like, "Oh, well, I'm dating you, so I could find out his tricks. What does he have that I don't have?" And then she tells him like the biggest thing that he has is that he's not worried about anyone else. He only does things himself, and he's like, "Oh, that's my problem. Is I'm too worried, especially with my dumb brother." And then it
Yeah.
immediately cuts from that scene to the other racer meeting Stallone, and Stallone's like, "Hey, nobody likes you but me." And then the other guy's
Yeah.
like, "I need to get my girl back."
Okay.
And Stallone's like, "Well, you gotta stop. You gotta let go of pride and stop thinking about what everyone else thinks." And I was like, the scene we just saw, you said that this
Right.
guy does not have that quality.
He's already fine with that.
And
Yeah,
this
he's good.
is-
Right.
So I'm there, Stallone. What's next?
Yeah.
Oh no, I gotta go for now.
And it's like, and he's like, "Oh, I want her back." And it's like, you guys have been broken up for half a day. I don't know why.
Right. Yeah. You guys broke up on the way from Chicago to Tokyo.
Yeah,
Or
you could
Toronto.
literally, you're in the same hotel. Just go talk to him.
Yeah.
Right.
And
You guys
like,
work for the same company.
it's also weird to see Stallone in such a like, oh, he's just a softie. Like Arnold can play a softie, like in Kindergarten Cop, he has that like
Sure.
kind of charm to him. But Stallone, the only time he can really play like a softie is when he's playing Rocky, and that's because Rocky is supposed to be like a loser. But it's like Stallone can't make his characters be a winner, but also be humble. You know, like
Right.
Right.
They have to
so
be
that's
like prideful.
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Schwarzenegger feels like a dad, even though he's like weird. Like even like in
Yeah.
Terminator, he has like kind of like a fatherly thing.
Yeah.
Like Sylvester Stallone is like dude who never got married ever in his whole life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's just like not like
You're really
family
like uncle.
oriented. He is a
Yeah.
he does
Yeah.
not talk to his parents anymore. He hates his brothers and sisters. Like he's alone. He's a
Yeah.
lone man. Yeah.
And Also, like, again, to talk about the dialogue. So Stallone comes in, he says hi to the other racer, and the other racer tells him, "Why do I spend my time talking to this guy?" And he's talking about Stallone. They're the only two people in that scene, in that whole arena, because they're like in the arena before the
Yeah.
race. You wouldn't say that, like, "Why do I spend all my time talking to you?" You know, like, why does everyone feel like they're talking to the audience and not to the characters, you know?
Yeah, like it's like a
Right.
stage play where you have to like say what's happening because
Yeah.
it's like you can't show
Yeah.
it fully. Yeah, it's a very weird script. We haven't even talked that much about Jimmy's brother because every single
Hmm.
scene Jimmy's brother is him being like, "Hey, stop enjoying life and get back to thinking about
Yeah.
racing."
Yeah.
Like I
I've
don't
got my
think
suit on.
he has a personality until maybe
Yeah.
the last 5 minutes of the movie. He's just
Right.
like,
Right.
"Hey, I'm a jerk. Make money for us. Stop looking
Yeah.
at
Come
that
on.
girl you like." You know.
And and then they're like, yeah, and the brother is like so slimy. Every suit he wears is like too big for him. And so
Hmm.
it's
He's
like,
like Liz Lemon's agent.
yeah, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
it's like they
He's
really
just the
wanted him
entire
to be.
movie.
His name should have been Swarmy. He's like, we need
Yeah.
some more
Yeah.
money.
Hey,
Like,
come
what?
on. It's
And
like the trailer for Any Given Sunday is that brother character's entire personality.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I like that's what, and I think that would have saved this movie if they had gone Oliver Stone, like the mix of Stallone and Oliver Stone on this thing would have
Oh, it's
created
the
such a
Stone. Yeah.
chasm of cinema,
Oh,
of
like the weird
bonkers
Honestly,
cinema.
mix.
I
Yeah.
would have been that would have been great. That would have been
Yeah,
a 10 out of 10 for
because
sure.
then there's a montage right after this of the guy looking at the ring he wants to give to his girlfriend when he gets back together with her, and it's like pictures being like faded in, and then there's like you see the ring going up, and it's like a screensaver that an 8-year-old would
Right.
make for MySpace. So, and it's like, what was the decision? Why don't you have like there's that thing like, oh, show don't tell. It's like, okay, but you have to tell us something. You can't just not tell
Right.
us anything.
So my thoughts on that, like, because like the editing in this movie is just insane,
Yeah,
and it's like I feel like there's sometimes you can tell where like they're trying to do stylized editing, but the coverage that they shot was not stylized like at all, and so
right,
they're
right.
just like we
Yeah.
have to cut out 18 hours of this movie. We
Yeah,
don't have any cool looking shots, so let's just like do crazy fades and whip pans that we can do post, and it's
yeah,
like you can tell that it's chopped like to shit, like it's
yeah,
just crazy, and it looks so weird. So like
yeah,
like the ring scene, like and you have like these like transitioning from cities to cities scenes. It feels like what is happening here? Like it does
yeah,
feel like something that like someone made like in a home like vacation
Yeah,
movie
yeah,
that
yeah,
got too
it's
crazy
like
with the
someone
edits.
you took someone's like home video footage of a wedding and you're like, "Hey, make this into a corn
Right.
video." It's like I'll
yeah,
Exactly.
try.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Just like snaps
then
in.
they go to another after party, which everyone goes to, and yes, like even these parties, like to jump on to what William's saying, like it's like you see the hotel, and then it's a quick cut of a girl's ass. There's always girls in
So
bikinis in
many
every
asses. Yeah.
location that they go to,
We see every
whether it's a
babe in existence.
yeah,
Yeah.
whether it's a restaurant, the racetrack, a club,
Yeah.
there's always a bikini girl. And then it'll cut to like a million different things, and it's like, why are you cutting? Like, this is a after party where it's a quiet date scene. Why is the
Right.
intro
Right.
to this establishing like quick snap
Insane.
zooms? And
Right.
then like, and again to show you like the Kip and the girl are walking, and Kip is like, oh, after we do all this, we should go on a vacation. And the girl's like, oh yeah, we can go anywhere. And he's like, and she's like, where do you want to go? And he's
Oh
like, oh,
yes.
I've
Yes.
never been on a vacation before. And then she goes, okay. And then the scene, like, she did not ask any question. There was no follow up. She's not like,
Craziest thing
what
to
do you,
say.
what
I've
do you
never taken a
mean?
vacation.
Yeah.
What?
I
Because you
gotta,
couldn't have been like, there's that like, oh well, he's been
Oh, are
training
you
this
8 years
since he
old?
was a child.
Yeah.
He couldn't have been training how to be racing. Like his parents never.
No way.
see, and I don't think this was the intended choice, but
Right
I
here.
believe the next scene is the one where they
Oh
break
my
up. So
god.
it's almost like she's like, "Wow, what a weirdo."
Yeah, what a
Yeah.
weirdo.
We're done
Well,
because
and then
there's no
see,
vacations.
and it's a hilarious scene because then the guy's like, oh, the other guy, the German
Oh
guy's like,
my
hey, can I
god.
talk to you? And she's like, yes. And then he's looking at her, and then he finally like kind of gets mad and goes and confronts him, and he's like, hey, you better not, because she's like, I'm so sorry, I love you, and he's like, hey, you can't tell her that, and she goes,
Yeah.
Kip, let him finish. And it's like, oh, buddy.
Be respectful, you non-traveled.
I've never been in person in that conversation before, but I have had that
Right.
conversation of he's actually not a bad guy.
Yeah.
And so then Kip gets so mad that he like jumps in a race car that they just have at the
Oh, I
club.
love this scene
Because
though.
they're like at an
This is such
expo.
it's like an
A car
expo.
That's right.
expo.
And because
Yeah.
see, to me, driving around the track boring, deciding to fly through 50 different construction sites in your Formula One
Yeah.
car, kind of cool.
And then when they first show them like whipping out onto like the main public roads, like you can just see Kip's little bitty head in the
Yeah.
little F1 car, and it looks so stupid.
And
also, like, because
Even worse
Stallone jumps in another one to chase him, and
Yeah.
Stallone
Yeah,
is just
yeah.
breaking through construction like equipment,
Right,
just
right.
completely
And see,
they don't care.
I think
They're
unfair.
doing 200 miles an hour.
that's
Yeah.
another reason that this movie it's such a weird film, because it's like nobody's told Stallone like, oh, some people just like car chases, like that's cool. It's always like, oh no, they got to be crashing through shit, and like every scene has to be an action scene. It's like, no, like you could just have like you're making a racing movie. There's not going to be any fights, and it's like he does not care
Right.
about this at all. So eventually
Yeah.
he stops Kip, and then they're like, oh, and then Burt Reynolds is like, oh, I want to fire him. And
Yeah. If anything, Burt
Oh,
Reynolds
well,
should be
hold
like, by
on.
the way, you're both arrested for like taking those
Yes,
cars.
because the helicopter is chasing them through Tokyo or
Literally.
wherever they're at.
Yeah.
And then they stop in like a little public square, and like the copter is just over their heads.
They just
Yeah.
like kind of hug it out. And
Yeah.
it's like,
They
it's
walk off
fine.
to some trees.
It's fine. You're not both under arrest for everything you just did.
I know you
Oh my
destroyed
God.
millions of property damage. You guys are going to jail.
You did a
But
Fast
before-
and Furious
They get-
level of like
Yeah.
destruction on this city.
Yeah. It's so illegal.
Yeah.
But back to the party real fast. So when they're at the party,
Oh, of
Stallone,
course.
like, and that's the thing. There's so many characters that every character has their own little moment in every scene. So every scene feels like it's 10 minutes long.
And
Because
they show
like,
everyone's face all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And so while Kip is being demolished by his girlfriend, they also show
Yeah.
Stallone, and he's talking to the reporter, and he's kind of still flirting with her, and he says something, and then Gina Gershon comes in, and she finishes his line, and she's like, "Oh, he's still using that line," and then they just stand there awkwardly, and she's like, "You better not sleep with him, honey, because he's not even that good of a lay," and then they're just still standing there silently.
Right.
Nobody stopped.
It's too
They
real.
just need to go
Realistic.
cut.
And then, yeah.
Yeah.
and then the reporter goes to the bathroom, and Gina Gershon is in there, and she's like, "Funny meeting you here." And
Yeah,
then
you
like,
had to also piss.
and she's like, "He's gonna break your heart, darling, if you keep fucking with him." And then the reporter's like, "Oh, my mascara's running," and she does the middle finger thing, and that's when I
Right.
realized Stallone wrote every character to be Stallone. Like they all talk.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
yeah,
the
It's all
Expendables.
quips.
Yeah.
They love and hate themselves so much.
Because like, two girls, like, I mean, granted, this is not a generalization of all women, but mostly women, they quip smarter than that. They don't quip like tough guy Rambos.
Sure.
They're
Yeah.
like,
They don't sound like Rocky.
yeah, I've never
people
seen a
don't
girl
in the
do
world.
this outside of that episode of Seinfeld. Like that's a
Right.
guy. That's a guy thing.
Right.
So then they're like, then he was like, oh, I want to fire him, and Stallone is like, no, he just needs more chances. I don't know, and he's like, no, we're firing him anyway. And so then they have one, oh no, that's not that. This happens before. So then they have another race, and this race is in the rain. Just so we know, it's a little different.
Oh, is this one of her memos back?
Yeah. So then they pull
This
Stallone off.
is where he's like, by the way,
most important race of the movie.
By the way, Stallone, I'm not letting you race this time. You can only work on the pit crew. And I want Stallone to be like, what is my job? Like,
Yeah, because I was wondering.
Yeah, he should have been like, I thought that's what I was going to be doing this whole time, to be honest. So that's okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think Stallone even says like, well, why are you taking me off and putting Memo on? And then Burt Reynolds is like, because Memo wants it. And it's like, First of all, Memo has not said anything that he wants. He's not like really.
Right.
He's not really a character.
He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, he
I'd like
just
to
seems like a.
imagine like
He's
William.
a cool dude.
William,
Chill hang.
you show up to work. You're like, hey, I'm here to teach class. So like, oh, actually, can you wash the windows today? You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
I guess.
So
Do
then,
you have supplies?
yeah, I know. Like, oh, okay. But yeah,
right to
so then
say.
they're like, we're gonna put Memo in, and he's like, why? And they don't ever answer. But then Memo's in, and so then they're
It
gonna
starts raining.
race.
I do wonder in
Yeah.
real life when it's heavy rain. I feel like they wouldn't because it's so insanely unsafe. I feel like they. Would
I think they
probably,
do.
Right, they ruin their tires pretty quickly.
Yeah, but I think they
So I don't
do.
know.
They do go in the rain.
They
I don't
race in the
know.
rain?
See,
Okay.
I think it
Once
depends
you
maybe
really-
the level of rain. You know.
yeah, there's a lot of
Mm.
different. Because F1 and Daytona are not the same, but I don't really know the differences. But there's
Yeah.
like I think it's speed wise, so I think it depends on which kind of race.
Like
it
how
is. Not
fast?
that-
I'm just thinking of turning in those like crazy rains. Like
Yeah.
it's like a full on thunderstorm. Like
yeah,
yeah,
you can't
yeah,
see
it's
10
dramatic,
feet in
so.
front of you style
And-
thunderstorm, basically.
right. And going
Yeah.
back to my Stallone thinks this is an action film. So then Memo like crashes, and his crash scene should be in the Smithsonian like film museum because
Oh, God,
he
I
flips,
know.
right? And then it shows him looking down as cars are like at least 10 cars before
Yeah.
he's
The
even got
ghost
to
of
the
cars.
ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he hits the ground, flips a bunch of times, lands into a lake that we've never like
Yeah,
it's in
they're
the
just-
middle
they're
of the
just-
track.
just next to the
The
lake.
announcers say into some kind of body of water.
Yes,
That's what
yes.
the announcers
Which
say.
might
They
just
don't
be-
know.
And
They're
then
A
just-
small lake.
And then it
What
cuts
do you
to
call
the,
that?
the fire guys, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta go save him." So they get in and they start driving. Then Kip stops his car, turns around, and is like, "I gotta go save him." So then he goes and gets out, and he's trying to save him. Then
Oh,
the girl,
Actually, we should note too. The only reason he crashed because he was supposed to just be a blocker for.
oh,
one of
but
them.
yes, he,
And then Gina Gershon's
Yeah,
like,
for
"No, you're gonna win this.
Win it,
just
baby."
push yourself."
And
so
everyone
Yeah.
else is like,
so
"Shut up."
he dies because his wife is evil. We should
yes. Oh, and
establish
also
that.
what Gina Gershon
Yeah.
needed was two little sidekicks, like the hyenas, who are like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
I
do
know.
it."
Instead, they just gave her a denim cowboy hat.
That she wears in every scene,
the
regardless
the
of whether.
worst
it's
look,
temperature.
music, and vibes of
Yeah.
all time. This movie.
Insane.
So,
yeah.
so then Kip is like, "Well, let me go save him." So then he goes and saves them, or he goes and tries to help him, and then like he can't lift up the car, and the guy's underwater, and there's gasoline. And just in
Yeah.
case you didn't know that gasoline's flammable, it cuts to the announcers, and they're like, "There's gasoline in that water. They better get out of it before it catches on fire." Also, the gasoline is on top of the water because it's not as dense as the water, so it's floating. And it's like, what kind of announcers are you? Like, why are you giving us
Yeah.
science lessons?
They're just like pulling out a chart of how chemical reactions
Yeah.
work. They're like, by the way,
They know their
also,
audience.
in
Yeah.
case you
It's
were
called
wondering.
fuel, not gas. Get it?
Oh,
right.
it's fuel.
Oh, that's
yes,
right.
yes, yes. That's
That
a big
is-
point.
That is a sticky.
And
To
so-
quote, yeah. If
then
you're
the-
the journalist and I'm Stallone, that's what I say to you to be cute.
Yeah, that's now I'm. Oh, you're flirting with me, Williams. What it
Oh,
seems
hello.
according
Yeah.
to this movie. And so then the synchronized swimmer tells the German like, "Oh, you need to go help him too." And so he goes back, and this whole time I'm like, "Where the hell is the fire truck? Why is it
Right? How did
taking
they
us
get
so
there?
long?"
Is there an exit? Is there an
They're
exit
not-
ramp out of the track?
Yeah, like where are they going? Like, because that makes it because they do flip a bunch, so it is
Yeah.
logically consistent that Memo might be 3 miles away for all we know with how these
Yeah.
cars. Like,
They were
It's
going
just
so fast. There was
the
wind.
buoyancy and momentum, yeah.
despite the
Right.
fact that Kip had to turn back around towards the track to go get him, but that's neither here nor there. So then
And
they
he's somehow
flip.
faster than the actual emergency vehicles that are
That
prepared
were-
to deal with this sort of crisis.
Yeah, they were not ready to go in during the track. Like, if there's any time you guys should be ready to go, it's while the race
Yeah.
is happening. So then, and now, like, there's a tree is on fire next to the
In
lake.
the rain.
In the rain. And the rain is not stopping this fuel. So then the German,
Yeah,
and they,
no.
like, it's so funny because Kip has him up, and Memo's not helping at all. He's just there. And so they're like,
Yeah.
hey, and Memo keeps going, this is foreshadowing. We don't know exactly what this means, but Memo at this point says, "I can't feel my legs." and then he goes back under the water.
It's probably
And
just
then,
temporary. It's for sure temporary.
yeah, and then the German comes and they're able to both flip the car back over because now the car doesn't weigh anything.
Yeah.
And then they pull Memo
Yeah.
out, and they pull Memo out. And he's like, "I can't feel my leg. I can't feel my leg." Like he said this a lot. And then,
Yeah.
of course, as soon as they pull him out, the tree falls and it explodes the entire lake, and they have to duck, and the fire goes over them because it's CGI fire.
Yeah.
And then there's a
The effects of
helicopter.
this were so bad.
There's a helicopter just over them. It's like, why were you not helping? What are you doing?
It followed them from Tokyo. It's
It's
like,
the same one. They're still trying to arrest them, the Tokyo
Yeah.
PD. They're like, this is unrelated.
You're like, you're
to the
so
crash.
under wreck. Yeah. And I like also during that crash, when Memo's flying in the air for 25 minutes, there's a tire that goes and it lands in the stands.
Oh,
And the
yeah,
tire
yeah.
looks like those Snapchat filters where they add a little like CGI.
Yeah, I do forgive
Crushes
bad.
a seat.
I forgive bad
I was-
CGI if like
yeah.
the rest of it works. Like I'm
Yeah.
charmed by it. It's just more that this movie is so insane that it just
Yeah.
throw it on the
Everything
pile.
was unforgivable.
Oh.
For sure.
And real fast. Before there's like a scene where they're interviewing Kip and it's a reporter and he's like, "Kip, what's next?" And Kip's like, "I don't really know." He's like, "Oh, going for the gold, huh?" And he's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do there?" And he's like, Kip's like, I think, or he's like, "What are you gonna do to win next time?" And he's like, I guess drive more." He's like, "Oh, airtight, that's great." And I was like, do reporters give this much ad lib back?
I know. The PSI on that tire will drive.
Yeah. And so then Memo crashes and surprise, surprise, he might be paralyzed.
Yeah.
And they're all like sitting in the room and they've all made friends again. But
Yeah,
that's
because
when
the
Burt
German
Reynolds-
guy's like, "Oh, you went to help him." It's like, "So did you?" He's like, "You did it first," and then that's
Yeah.
when they become
Yeah.
like brothers of
Yeah.
the road. You know?
And but let
And I
me
think Kip is injured too, right?
Yeah,
He
he,
breaks
he
his
like
foot.
Or is he just-
he like wakes him in
Okay.
a hospital. Yeah, because he makes him do that crazy test where he's like, if you can.
well
Oh yeah, go ahead.
before that again. So Memo's in his hospital, they're all there. Kip is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And
Memo's
then
out. Kip is just in a wheelchair.
Yeah, the next scene, you see that Kip has a boot on his foot. But before that, when he's just in a wheelchair, it just seems like he's mocking Memo because Memo.
Yeah.
can feel
It
his
seemed like he's
leg.
just in it. He's just like hanging out
He's
in the
just
wheelchair.
sitting there, yeah.
Memo later. Yeah, I totally thought that too. I was like, this is a terrible detail.
And I was like, well, there's a lot of people in this room. Maybe there's no more seats. But no.
Right.
The fact is that his foot is broken, but they don't. And again, it's not a reveal. It's just like, oh, yeah, by the way, his foot's broken. You knew that, right? It's like, no, we did not know that. He was just
Yeah.
running in the scene we just saw him.
Stop starting the scenes this late.
Right. And the German guy at one point is like, I didn't want to win the championship this way. And you're like, okay, so I guess the movie's over. Like,
Right.
but no, it is
No.
not over.
So then he wants to fire him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna lose anyway." But then they're like, "Okay, Kip can still do it. He has to pass 2 tests. The first test is he has to be able to get out of the car in 5 seconds, which he does magically. He's a healer.
Right.
Also, I feel like 5 seconds
Yeah.
is quite a long time to get out of a car. Like it's not that hard to get.
I can get
like
out of my Toyota in 5
Ma-
seconds.
This is
Right out
why
the door.
nobody takes car race drivers seriously because they're like, you know what I did? I got out of that car in 5 seconds. It's like, yeah, I mean, everyone
Yeah.
can do that. That's
I
not a
drive
hard.
every day, dude.
He's like, I drive
I'm really
real,
good at driving.
I drive real fast and I can get out of a car in 10 seconds. It's like, yeah, everyone does that. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds is like, oh, there's another test.
The
And
foot
I wanna-
test.
if-
yeah.
If you love race car driving, will you let us know if this is something Stallone made up or if
Please.
this is a real
Yeah.
thing? Because why is this a test? But the test is he has to jump on his foot 10 times in a row, and he's like, well, it has to be the bad foot too. And it's like they don't explain. They're like, oh, and then we'll know you can race. It's like, what part of racing involves hopping? Because
I guess just
Right.
like I don't know how how
Pushing
much
the pedal
pressure
down?
the pedal has compared to a normal car.
right.
But they even kind of call it in the movie like, oh, this is specifically a weird thing Burt Reynolds
Well,
does.
Well,
Yeah.
Stallone is like, hey, we don't have to do that one because it's like kind of implied that he's going the extra mile. Like you have to do both of these, which we don't
Right.
really do anymore. But it's like I just want someone to be like, oh yeah, race car driving. Listen, out of my car in 5 seconds. I can drive fast and I can hop the shit out of my foot. You'd be like, I'm not impressed with any of these things.
Dang.
These are very normal activities that you can do.
But did you see how I had a suit on?
Yeah,
It was
I
all
jumped.
red with ads on it.
Did you see how? And then because then even when Kip goes and saves Memo, like there's gasoline everywhere, and Kip takes off his helmet, and then he takes off
Yeah.
the thing they put under their helmet. It's like I thought that thing was fire
Oh, is it a
retardant.
fire
Isn't
mask?
that the whole point of wearing?
Oh,
Why would
that
you
makes
take?
sense.
Yeah,
I
but
thought it was for sweat, but that doesn't make any sense at all.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I
I
always
guess I
heard it
didn't
was
even
for
know what that was
fire,
for.
but
No,
again,
that
I
that
don't
makes
know.
way more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they're like, okay, you can race, and then they do the race, and I cannot tell you how anticlimactic this race is. Like, they're,
Yeah. I
I
think I might
think,
have been on my phone during this race.
It is
yeah,
very like it's
Yeah.
weird because the other ones were like weirdly like like I mean like obviously the chase to the city is like a crazy action scene, and then the last one was like huge.
hmm
This final one is just very like yeah, you know what time it is. The movie's almost over. Let's
Yeah.
just
Right. Oh, well, there is some crazy stuff that happened. We do get the jump. There's a jump in the middle
oh
of the race,
yes, yeah,
which is like insane.
which I
That
don't
seems
think
against
is
the
a
rules.
real, yeah. It's not Mario Kart, which makes me
Yeah,
think
you
they
can't
should
cut
have made
across the
this a
lawn.
Mario. If this movie had done everything the same, but every time they got into the cars, it was the Mario Kart tracks, it would
10
have
out of
worked a
10.
lot better. Like, it would have made a
Yeah.
lot more sense. Where they're like,
Right.
"Hey, Memo almost died. Luckily, the red turtle shells knocked him out."
Yeah. Just if it would have been a spike.
I feel like I would really like a racing movie if it was like just the Mario Kart,
Yeah.
like that.
I would see
that
that
would
movie
be
for
my
sure.
jam.
Yeah,
100%.
everything's the same. She's still synchronized swimming, but it's in like a big turtle shell.
Right. I was raised
and-
by a Yoshi.
And then like Stallone is like, "Oh, I could win this," and it's like, "Wait, that was an option. Why haven't you been winning any of these races?"
Right.
But then he's like, "Oh, there's something wrong with my car, so you guys go ahead." And
it's
so
the same thing with Memo. It's like they're trying to make that a theme where it's like you always want to take a risk and win if you're a race car driver, but they didn't really develop it enough to like make it
yeah,
interesting. Because like the German guy faces that, Memo faces that, and then so Sly does. Because like no one like really wants Blythe to win or Bly.
yeah,
Even Bly doesn't really want to win. So it's like this like weird thing where like that happened like in every race where like this support person was supposed to try to like take the lead, and it always ruins them.
right. And it's like,
Right?
yeah, but it's also like, and maybe this is just my ignorance of race car driving, but why would you want to be a race car driver if you can't ever win? Like your whole goal is to never ever win.
Right.
Wouldn't you
Well,
like?
it's like in like it would make you mad. Like
Yeah.
What is that movie? What's the Talladega Nights? Like that's
Yeah.
the whole theme of that
Yeah.
movie.
Right,
Shake
but,
and
like,
bake.
he's
No wonder
always
he's so
number
mad.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Which-
I guess that's like how team racing is.
And see, it's that thing where in Talladega Nights, I thought that the whole point was that he's so cocky that he never gives his teammate a chance. But
Right.
apparently
Apparently
that's just part
the
of the
structure.
sport.
Yeah,
That's
like
just the strategy.
you're just a
Yeah.
blocker,
A
and the other
winner is
guy's like the
chosen.
winner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
But
again
then
to
that-
me is not that interesting in like a sports level. You know?
Exactly, because
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, are you really a good driver, or are you just like your teammate's really good at blocking the other drivers? You know? Like,
Right.
what
Are you
is it?
so bad that all you can do is be in front? Like,
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
so bad at everything else.
Yeah.
That you just have to go fast. That's all you
And
can
then, and then earlier we had found out that when they fired him, it's because they were going to bring on the German, and now the brother was going to represent the German, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to
Oh.
represent Kip anymore." But it's like, I'm pretty sure you can manage 2 people, especially if they're in the same sport and the
Yeah.
same team.
The
Like, what are you?
same team.
What
All
are
right,
you
guys, we have
talking?
to be in Toronto on Thursday.
Yeah,
Make sure you're there.
yeah. Like Oscar De La
We
Hoya,
provide you with a car. It's an F1
he-
racer. You can get there.
yeah, he's a manager of like 1 million boxers. Like sometimes they
Right.
fight each other. Like
Yeah.
that's just part
It's
of it.
crazy.
But so then they're walking away, him and the girlfriend, and the guy's like, "Hey, can you sign the contract real fast?" For some reason, I did not get you to sign the contract when we had our meeting. Now I need you to sign the contract.
Yeah.
And then it's also funny because on Wikipedia, it says that he tears up the contract, but in the actual movie, she takes the contract and throws it on the floor and says, "Take that." And he goes, "Oh, what do you want to do? Hit me?" And he hits her. But I think it's funny that not even Wikipedia could pay that much attention.
They're like,
to this.
Right, right.
It
they
got
get
He
in a
was also on his
fight.
phone during that scene. Yeah.
They were like, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, he doesn't sign. That's important. Everything else, like the
Yeah,
house and the
don't worry.
wife.
It will not matter
Yeah.
to anything at all.
And so then the kid wins, and then they're like, then there's just like, oh, they're all at the thing and they're all together. And see, I think the biggest problem with this movie is that there's no conflict whatsoever. And they
Yeah.
even set things up for there to be conflict. Like
Yeah.
when Memo loses the job, he goes up to Stallone, he's like, hey man, I understand, like, it's not you, it's Burt Reynolds. That's the nature of team sports, blah, blah, blah. And we're still buddies. I love you. Also, isn't it weird that I'm having sex with your wife and you don't seem to have a problem with it? Anyway, I'll see you
Yeah.
later. Then it cuts to Memo, like, he kind of goes into the trailer and he sits down. You see him be sad. But that never comes up again.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah,
so was
right.
there hesitation? And then, like, there should be more of a rivalry between the two, the German guy and Kip.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah, you really think they're going to frame it
Now
that
since they
way, and it
barely
just
even know each other.
dissipates.
Yeah.
you
even
know?
when
Yeah.
Kip steals that guy's girlfriend and takes her to Japan to swim in a pool, the German guy's like, he beats himself up more for it, which is like, hey, that's
Yeah.
a very mature emotional response. But I'm watching a
Yeah.
racing movie. You know, like,
Well, and the one big conflict, which
I
is
know.
Jimmy's evil brother, at the end he's just like, "Oh, I'm not evil anymore. I'm proud of you. Great."
well, and
Yeah.
even
Smiles at him from the crowd.
yeah, it's just like,
even
"Good
the
job."
brother-
It's like, okay. This is...
even the brother seems to be more driven by the fact that they grew up pretty shittily, and so he's like, I never want to go back to that life. I always want to like
Yeah.
be richer and be richer. So even like he's swarmy, but like it's never really against Jimmy except for that one part which is immediately taken back where he doesn't sign him.
Yeah. Right.
And
right.
even like even the movie will point out, like when Burt Reynolds is like, hey, I want to quit, I'm gonna fire this kid because he helped someone. Stallone is like, you're gonna fire him for saving a life? And Burt Reynolds is like, yeah, that doesn't seem right.
Weird.
Yeah.
Like, was
The
the
press
race
would have
still
a field day.
going while these people were
Yeah,
dying?
it's very subdued. I almost feel like that's why they almost try to hide it with like just the blasting music. Like,
Yeah.
they're just like,
Yeah,
look, this is
yeah.
exciting. You're like, not really.
Yeah.
These are a bunch of
Is it?
adults doing pretty
Yeah.
adult things, other than racing
Yeah.
through the streets of Tokyo or whatever. They
It's
did.
like
Right,
it's like
right.
Stallone is like, hey man, don't you hate that guy? And Kip is like, not really. And then the music's like, check it out. It's like, why?
And then the journalist is just in whatever room, just doing this.
Yeah. See,
Concerned. Like that's her whole role. It's just like looking concerned
at the
during meetings.
She-
at the very end, Stallone, like, he runs into the journalist and she's like, oh wow, you're my hero. And he's like, all right, cool. And then he just keeps walking. Like, he doesn't even stop.
Remember to save fuel.
It was like, are
None
they
of the
together?
men-
Is this part of it? Yeah.
The German is in love with his girlfriend, and Memo is in love with his Gina Gershon wife. But Stallone and Kip cannot be bothered with women. They only see them
Yeah.
as kind of little distractions for
Just
when
like,
they're bored.
I love racing.
speed bumps, bro.
That's
Speed
it.
bumps. Yeah.
Yeah, but then so then the brother's like, "Oh, by the way, I changed my mind. I like you now." And it's like, I thought you always did. I mean, you guys. If I had to spend all my time with my brother, we would also have that kind of relationship.
Sure. You know,
Because the
Yeah.
point
that's
of
how
the
it goes to siblings. Yeah.
But yeah, the movie, it's like, and also Remy Harlin doesn't seem that interested in driving. Like, he doesn't.
Yeah,
And maybe that's why
yeah.
he's constantly, because there's even like, it's like every scene he's like, how do I make this look more actiony? So there's like cutting inside. Sometimes when Kip is driving, it's like blurry. And it's like, can he
Yeah.
not see? Or is it supposed to be like he seems so fast that we can't see as well?
That's what I thought. It's like his special racer vision.
Yeah, but like he
But it
never
only works
like
when he unlocks it at the
he
end.
always uses it when he's losing, which makes no sense.
He's like, yeah, you know, whatever. I'm just gonna.
Or
He's
like,
just messing around.
yeah. Again,
Yeah.
if you don't see any part of this movie, we wouldn't encourage you to see this movie, which we probably won't. But at least find the scene with Memo and look at how long he's in the air while like there's
That
this
is-
other
Awesome movie.
thing.
That
It's
is a
literally-
charming moment.
It's a Naked Gun gag where there's like a bird flying by.
Dude, for real. Yeah.
But
Then
yeah,
it lays eggs and the eggs hatch as he's still flying through the air.
I feel like, and Stallone talked about how there was 20 drafts of this script. Originally it was about F1.
Yeah.
Then it was going to
Mhm.
be a documentary about that Sierra guy, that famous F1 driver who everyone who likes F1 probably heard me say his name is like, that's not him. Whatever that guy's name
Yeah.
was. Um, but it almost feels like Stallone was given the task of writing a racing movie, and he had no idea how to do it. He never found a hook for it, and he just ended up writing like a mini series about racing that no one was ever going to
Right.
turn into a movie. And so Remy Harlin had to cut it down from being 12 hours long. But
Yeah.
I think like even if this had had more time, I think it's like he's so uninterested in like the characters fighting with each other. It's like he has,
Yeah.
when you're writing a script, there's always a point, especially me who writes horror. There's a point where you fall in love with your characters and you're like, does this guy really have to die? And you have to kind of like kill your darlings. You got to push that out of the way,
Yeah.
But it feels like Stallone liked all the characters in this movie so much that he didn't want any of them to look like the bad guy. So there's no tension in any of the scenes. And there's not
Right.
even
They
like,
just are.
and because he doesn't accurately explain what we're aiming for, we don't really like. We can't just be like, oh well, at least they're
Right.
gonna win the championship. It's like they're just like, oh, by the way, there's only one more race, and then the next one they're like, this is the last race, and it's like, oh, okay, it looks like
Okay.
all the other
Well,
races. Like,
it's like, so is he fired? Is he not fired?
yeah,
That's why, like, when you
who's
said
on the
that
track here?
Oliver Stone was supposed to direct at one point, like that's the movie I'd want to see.
no, I just said he should have directed because
Oh,
Should have, yeah.
just a Hail Mary.
yeah,
Because it's
Be-
like this movie
Yeah.
needs to be like more bizarre, if not better, than at least like you need to do something with it.
or
Than-
Yeah,
do
we need some
like
drama between the characters.
yeah,
Sure.
or even just do what F1 is doing. Like that movie doesn't look terrible, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
It was
in
fine.
between. And it's so funny because it's like, oh man, Stallone, you should listen to this guy who wrote this really good sports movie. His name's Sylvester Stallone. He wrote Rocky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, but it's not even like Rocky esque. I don't know. It's just
That's
a
what I'm saying.
complete-
Like,
Well,
Yeah.
the original draft sounded kind of like they were going to be like on like that thing where they're talking about the 20 drafts. He says like the first drafts were like a drunk has been wash up is like trying to teach this new guy how to race.
Yeah.
And he's like, it got like really dark and seedy. And I was like, I want to see that movie. I want to see
Yeah.
a movie with like the dark and seedy old gross guy, which is what this movie obviously seems like it was going to be. And he's like, then we opened it up to be more of like an ensemble piece, and so we added more characters. And it's like, yeah, I can see that what you really had was a simple, chill idea, and then you made it into this weird,
right.
kind of sprawling.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Boogie Nights of F1 racing, but
Yeah.
not good.
But not dark. And I think it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder if, and there was this weird moment in time before Stallone kind of comes back with like Rocky Balboa and Rambo, where I think Stallone kind of like lost faith in himself because it's like, this movie should have starred Sylvester Stallone. It should have just been like, we should be talking about how F1 ripped this movie off. It should have been about a young kid who is teamed up with an old guy, and he realizes that the old guy still got it, and maybe the old guy wins, or he helps the young kid win, or whatever.
Sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should have just been this. Like, we didn't need the German guy and his girlfriend and then the reporter and his girl. It's like there's so much in this. It's so dense for no reason. But there's no
we
like
don't know anything
turmoil.
about F1.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, there's no conflict. Yeah. And I was reading something where it was like conflict is the most important part of a story, and I was like, well, yeah, everyone knows that. Apparently not. Apparently some people need to be reminded every once in a while.
That can slip through the cracks pretty easily.
Yeah. If you want to see a good Sylvester Stallone movie, watch any of the Rockies except for Part 5. And that's, I mean, it's okay. Watch it. Watch the memo scene. Put that on your watch
I mean,
list.
this is like a fun movie to watch with people.
Yeah.
Just because it's baffling.
Yeah,
this
movie is like so bad but it's not.
Like if anyone's
like,
like, oh, I really miss the early 2000s. Be like, no, watch this and you'll remember that you did.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not. So it's fun.
It's the last thing you need.
Yeah. I would say, like, especially if you're in film school, get a bunch of your film school students together or film school friends and watch this movie, or filmmaker friends.
Yeah.
Because it's such like the filmmaking choices that they make in this are so bonkers that you're constantly like, why did you make that? What are you doing? Like, what is going?
Right.
That's
what forced them to make this decision that sucks?
Yeah. But no. So that was good. But yeah, check it out. Any last words on Driven?
I I don't know. I don't know. I was inexplicably entertained, even
Yeah.
though it was just such a pile of trash.
Yeah.
But that sounds harsh. I feel like that's harsh to say.
It's
that. I
almost
don't
like
want
it's
to insult
not
it, but it's
trashy enough to
crazy.
be trash. You're just like, it's like a
That's what-
weird.
Right. It's like what?
It's like a
And that's
failed
what I was-
experiment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that there's like the main problem is that it's long because there's a lot of scenes
Yeah.
that hit the so bad it's good thing, but then in between those scenes, there's a lot of scenes of nothing. Like people just
walking to a
awkwardly
room being like, "What are you
talking.
doing? What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a wacky film. So go give it a
Right.
shot.
When it's on
I will say, like,
which
it
it's
is
not.
when I
Yeah.
was watching, I was sad because this is one of the ones where I wish we had like a Mystery Science Theater 3000
Oh,
show
like
where we
watch
could
along
talk
for
about
it.
it. Wow.
Yeah.
We could
'Cause-
do a commentary on Driven.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we didn't talk about because it would be too hard to explain. Where it's just like,
Right,
No.
but in the
This is
moment, it's
crazy.
so good. You're like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah,
What?
no,
or
that's
like
it is that type of a movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
I give you-
100%, yeah.
I gave you a
Completely
couple
agree.
of examples of the dialogue, but all the dialogue is like that.
Or just
It's
like
such
the
a-
editing.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just very
Yeah.
like, wait, why is there 30 cuts in this like dinner? I
Yeah.
don't understand.
Right. Like we could talk for 2 more hours on this movie.
Right.
Given
Like
the time. Yeah.
I literally could dissect every single scene in this movie.
Yeah.
And not even like in a bad way, and it's just kind of like, what are you thinking? Like what were your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Understanding quantum physics for the
yeah.
first time.
But yeah,
Which
so
reacts
Driven,
differently when observed. Yeah.
we really go to
Not
bat
bad.
for Stallone on this channel.
I
It
know
seems.
Detox, Driven,
Yeah.
Cobra. We did Cobra a long
Cobra.
time ago.
Yeah.
All his
Which one was
best.
Detox?
All those bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is the podcast, right?
Oh, I see
The
you.
Bob
I see
Squad.
I
you.
see you. Yeah,
I see
we did
you
it like
slash
3 weeks ago, William.
Detox. Yeah.
Detox.
To
I was
show
like, well, I
you-
know that.
To show you how memorable Detox was, we saw it 3 weeks ago.
William's already like, who? What is that?
He's like, we should do that one.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
That's my favorite slasher.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
But next week, guys, we're starting a very fun. I've been thinking about this theme for a while. Theme weeks. Well, they're always hit and miss. Let's find out. But we'll see. We'll wait till next week to explain it. But yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. So come back next week and go watch Driven. We talked about it for quite a
Yeah.
while, which I'm very surprised at. But
That's what I'm
check it
saying.
out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Check it out.
All right.
$3.79 on Amazon.
Yeah.